Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grizzly True Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu, where you can go to BetNow.eu, use the promo code TRUTH100 to get a 50% cashback bonus on your first deposit. I am your co-host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
How's it going, Mike? I'm doing good.
Oh, it's great, and we'll start off with a little trade news as the Miami Dolphins have traded Kenyon Drake to the Arizona Cardinals for a 2020 conditional pick. What do you make of this?
Surprise team. I didn't see the Cardinals in the Kenyon Drake sweepstakes, but what this tells me, it might tell me that David Johnson's injuries could linger. He could be going on IR because you don't see too many teams dealing away draft capital for a third-string running back. Yeah. So this tells me Kenyon Drake, David Johnson could be missing time, or even Chase Edmonds, who left yesterday's game with an injury himself.
All right. The rest of the news we'll just go through as we get to the games that it's prevalent to, like J.J. Watt. But we're going to start off with the Seattle Seahawks, who beat the Atlanta Falcons 27-20. Russell Wilson, 14 for 20, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chris Carson, 20 carries for 90 yards. And what this tells me is this is pretty much a two-man show with Wilson and Carson. And Seattle isn't going to blow anybody out. They're going to be in a lot of close games all year, and they're going to win the majority of them because of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know if they're exactly a two-man show because they really have some talented complementary pieces at receiver. You know, Tyler Lockett's really emerging as a star in the league. And then DK Metcalf, with his size and the lack of depth at tight end, DK Metcalf is almost like the tight end on the field, especially in the red zone. He caught two or three passes for 13 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they really did use him in that Will Dissly / big-bodied red zone target yesterday.
And the Falcons, of course, once again, Matt Schaub played well, though, in place of Matt Ryan. 39 for 52, 460 yards. But once again, no running game, and no running game makes it hard for anybody to win.
Yeah, Devonta Freeman, he's been catching a lot of passes because of the negative game script, but he really can't get anything going on the ground. The Falcons as a team, it's not just Devonta Freeman. Their running backs can't get anything going. But I liked Matt Schaub going into the week. I think people undersell him and forget that he spent quite a few years as the starter for the Houston Texans, even threw for over 4,000 yards a few times. A real quality backup. He doesn't play a lot, but 450-something yards and a touchdown, that's not a slouch performance. The Falcons didn't lose because of Matt Schaub.
All right, and we have issues in Chicago. What did you think about Matt Nagy saying he had no thought of trying to get the ball closer, just took a knee at the end instead of trying to get it a few yards closer? Do you think it was the right call? Do you think it doesn't really matter, or what?
It shows me that he has absolutely zero confidence in his quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what it tells me.
And I think this. I don't think Matt Nagy should be on the hot seat here. It should be Pace, because this was a team that could have had Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes, and instead they traded up to get Mitchell freaking Trubisky.
And another thing, they brought this head coach. They brought Nagy in. This wasn't a situation where Nagy was brought in and was able to, draft his quarterback and build this roster. He was thrown into it and say, okay, here we go. We spent a second overall pick on Mitchell Trubisky. You're stuck with him. This is your guy. Make him work. Rather than, go in, maybe get rid of John Fox a year earlier and give the new younger head coach, because John Fox was on the hot seat. They didn't have to keep him around that extra year. So this is not on Matt Nagy. This is on Pace. This is on Trubisky.
Yeah, it's on Pace. I mean, Trubisky sucks. It's just what it is. He wasn't going to get any better anyway, so it's not really on him. But when you pass up a chance to get Deshaun Watson, Or, I mean, hell, there's a number of quarterbacks below here that were drafted that were better than Mitchell Trubisky. And I don't think there was a team in the world outside of the Bears that thought Mitchell Trubisky was a top 10 pick.
But, that's how it works. I mean, they could have got Mahomes.
Yeah. Well, they could have got Deshaun Watson, who's better than Mahomes even. Next up, Phillip Rivers. Well, it's not next up. It's the same thing. Phillip Rivers, 19 for 29, 201. I don't think we learned anything about the Chargers, and they still can't run the ball, which is still going to be an issue. I think both of these teams overall are pretty much dead in the water for this year.
Yeah, this isn't one of those years where the Chargers are starting slow and they're going to turn it around. They usually turn it around by now. I think the big mistake that they made, maybe the front office should have gotten Melvin Gordon ready instead of making him hold out. That's one of those cases where I think they were stubborn, and this really set that team back.
All right.
Because by the time Melvin Gordon shakes the cobwebs off, missing all that time, I know he's been back a couple of weeks, but once he starts getting going, because he will, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, and the Detroit Lions once again made things tougher than they needed to be with 31-26 win over the New York Giants. The thing that stands out to me here, though, Anthony, on the road against a decent Detroit defense, Daniel Jones, 28 for 41, 322 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and this has been Daniel Jones in his rookie year. He'll flash, he'll throw 4 touchdowns, he'll look really good, and then he'll have a couple of bad games. But if you look towards the future, I think Daniel Jones is better than what people thought he would be, and I think he's going to be a quality quarterback for the Giants. And again, this is a team with not very much on defense and still no Sterling Shepard, even though Darius Slayton is kind of breaking out a little bit. But, in the future, you added in maybe another lineman, a couple of defensive pieces, and a healthy wide receiving core. Daniel Jones has a lot to work with, and I think he'll win some games. I mean, they'll certainly be better than the Redskins next year.
Yeah, and don't you think it's safe to say that they're probably the team to beat in the NFC East for the next decade now?
Sure. Sure.
I know.
Sure.
It's stupid. As long as the Eagles are there, the Eagles are the team to beat. Matthew Stafford.
Even though Dak has won 2 division championships in the first 3 years of his career.
Yeah, how many playoff games has he won?
And he would have won 3 if it wasn't for the Zeke suspension.
How many playoff games did he win?
1. He has 1. He has
He's
one so
won.
far.
Okay.
We're going to go. The Cowboys didn't even play this week, and you're going to get me all riled up about Dak.
Well, that's because Dak sucks.
Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins still 0 signature wins.
0 signature wins. You know what? If Kirk Cousins would have been on the Cowboys over the last 3 years, you might have played in a championship game.
Beating the Giants at home?
Well, that's what the signature win is for Dak. Dak's signature win is beating Green Bay in Green Bay the same year. Green Bay came back and beat him in the playoffs.
Okay.
Matt Stafford, 25 for 32, 342, 3 touchdowns. This Detroit team, though, the issue here is they cannot run the ball. Trey Carson, 12 for 34. Ty Johnson, 7 for 25. That's an issue.
They weren't running the ball with Kerryon Johnson either. So
No.
I don't want to hear from people, they lost Kerryon. Kerryon wasn't exactly the most effective back when he went on IR. The issue with Detroit is not only they can't run the ball, their defense does have some holes in it. They moved that safety to Seattle. I don't know if the Lions are packing it in or what, but they just don't look like they're playing with enough fire. The Lions were a team that I thought would be in on Kenyon Drake, and if they don't bring in the back, to me they're packing it in.
All right, next up, the New York Jets continued to look like crap unless they played the Dallas Cowboys, who they beat because they're the Cowboys. Jacksonville, 29. New York Jets, 15. Gardner Minshew, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Leonard Fournette, 19 for 76. The Jets, Sam Darnold, 3 picks. This has got to be becoming an issue because his MO in college was he had an issue with turnovers. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better here for him. And Le'Veon Bell, 9 carries for 23 yards.
Yeah, this was on the Jacksonville end, this was a must-win game. I called it a must-win game for them. because they were 3-4 going into this one. You have Nick Foles returning to practice. All of a sudden, if you lose a game, it puts you another game behind the division. But they're right in the mix of it with Foles, and we know Foles can come in at the end of the year and lead the team to the playoffs. Leonard Fournette is getting going. The issue with the Jaguars that I don't know if Fournette scored yesterday, but as a team, they only have one rushing touchdown on the year going into yesterday's game, and I don't think that changed. So that is an issue they need to correct. They need to give it to Leonard Fournette a little bit more on the goal line. Their defense is playing extremely well without Jalen Ramsey. But on the Jets end, I don't have words for this team. Is Sam Darnold a problem, or is he the product of a poorly run organization?
Well, how about this? Maybe he's a problem because a poorly run organization thought that he was a franchise quarterback.
I'd like to still think Sam Darnold is a quality player, is an upside player. Look at Jared Goff in his year one without Sean McVay. I'm not a big Adam Gase. Maybe Adam Gase isn't the guy.
Well, I'm not a big Sean McVay fan because it's not like Jared Goff has been great. I mean, he was great when Todd Gurley was the best running back on the planet, but since then, he's not looked so hot.
I don't know. You have a Le'Veon Bell, you pay him all this money, and he's barely getting enough touches to get going. The offensive line's in shambles. Your biggest defensive acquisition, C.J. Mosley, can't stay on the field. This is just the Jets. I think they just have a black cloud over them. That's the only logical explanation.
All right, let's go to another team with a black cloud over them, the Cincinnati Bengals, who were beaten 24-10 by the Los Angeles Rams. And they made Jared Goff look like a good quarterback, 372 yards, 2 touchdowns. But I think the story here was Cooper Kupp, 7 receptions, 220 yards. Is Cooper Kupp the comeback player of the year in the NFL?
He's definitely in the conversation, and I don't even know if I can put anybody ahead of him because he's been absolutely outstanding in almost every game this year. In fantasy, in my world, I was a big Cooper Kupp guy last year, and he began to emerge a little bit before the injury, and this year people were worried about a slow start coming off the knee. I've always believed he was the best receiver with the highest upside on the Rams. And if he can stay healthy the rest of the way, I think he's going to show that he is.
All right, with the Bengals, they still can't run the ball. Joe Mixon, better than normal, 17 carries for 66 yards. Of course, every Bengal fan will tell you Andy Dalton's the issue. Andy Dalton was 32 for 52, 329 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. So it's obvious Bengal fans are idiots. This, to me, the Bengals, the Jets, the Bears, you can throw them all in the same basket. They're just poorly run organizations that have made poor choices over the last 5 years in the NFL, and it's coming back to bite them all in the ass now.
Is there an answer in sight for the Bengals? Or is just I know you believe it's going to continue because of the ownership, but there's got to be light at the end of the tunnel, right?
No, there's none. I really think that. I think the way this goes is you look at what they've drafted. You watch the offensive line yesterday. Billy Price is horrible. He was a first-round pick. They still got Bobby Hart flailing around trying to block people. And Joe Mixon, still under 4 yards per carry. Joe Mixon is a top 5 or 10 running back in this league, and he doesn't look like it right now because the offensive line is a mess. This is a team that lost John Ross and A.J. Green, the 2 guys that can stretch the defense. Auden Tate looked good with 5 receptions for 65 yards. But to me, this all comes back to the Bengals scouting staff, which is 8 people complete, 4 full-time scouts, where you get the Cleveland Browns with 31. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are supposed to be a mom and pop team, 22 scouts. So this is all back to the scouting department, the fact that they can't find players, and the fact that Opie Taylor should not be an NFL coach. And I think there's a real good chance this Bengal team could have a perfect season.
If you can call it that, And, what do you do with it? We don't blame Andy Dalton or the Bengals, a team that if they did get a top 2 or 3 pick, do they go after a quarterback or do they believe in Andy Dalton and try to put an offensive line in front of him? If I was Cincinnati, if I was their general manager and I got a top 3 pick, I would probably trade the pick for 2 first-round picks in this draft and like a second or third, whatever that point value system, however they evaluate picks, and go get the 2 best linemen off the board.
Well, you already got Jonah Williams,
right?
Who is one of them.
They need 4 more, and you know that.
Oh, they need more than 4 more because you got to have some depth too. But the problem is this. Like you said, you'd almost have to trade it down. But to me, when I look at this, whoever picks first, I don't care what their quarterback situation is, the number 1 pick in this draft should be Chase Young. Chase Young is the best pass rushing defensive end I have ever seen in college football.
Okay.
I mean, he should win the Heisman Trophy as a defensive end. He is unstoppable. I mean, this is a guy against Wisconsin who has a pretty good team and a damn good offensive line, and Chase Young had 4 sacks against them. And this is a guy that dominates.
If you have a Joe Mixon at running back and a Gio Bernard, and you can't run the ball, you clearly need an offensive line, and that's what I would do.
No kidding. But this is the thing. The easiest way to get that offensive line is not to draft 4 rookies and think that all of a sudden you're going to have an offensive line. The only way to do this is if you go
the
out.
Plugged in Quentin Nelson and another pick last year, and look at them.
There's no Quentin Nelson out there. Quentin Nelson is an anomaly. Quentin Nelson is like getting John Elway in the first round of the draft with your quarterback pick. It doesn't happen very often. Quentin Nelson is, I think, coming out, he was the best guard since John Hanna.
He was comped to Larry Allen, and I'm a big Larry Allen fan.
Dude,
obviously.
He's John Hanna, who is 10 times better than Larry Allen ever dreamed of being because John Hanna is the greatest offensive guard to ever play in football. And Quentin Nelson, 10 years from now, people are going to say he's the greatest guard in the history of the NFL.
And he can play tackle, too.
It doesn't matter. There's no reason for him to play tackle because he's the greatest guard. John Hanna could have played tackle, but if you got a guy that's the greatest guard to ever play the game.
I like the versatility. I like, who was it, Bruce Matthews?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys with Bruce. Come on, Anthony Munoz could have played guard if he'd have had to. All I'm saying is Quentin Nelson is special, and the Cincinnati Bengals would miss on that because they would never notice it. So I'm telling you this, I would take Chase Young. And I'm also telling you, Jonah Williams, I think, unless they screw him up by coaching, which they very well could do. I mean, you're going to bring a quarterback into an organization that can't develop him. Andy Dalton, to me, has regressed from what he was 6 or 7 years ago. That's on coaching. That's not on anything else. And if you draft a quarterback that high, he's probably going to be a bust here because this organization is toxic. So really, no matter what they do, they're screwed. You've got a head coach that it took a month and a half to 2 months for him to find a defensive coordinator would agree to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. That's why his coaching staff is a bunch of 15-year-olds, and they look like the little rascals running around on the sideline. Because nobody wants to come here, because this is the place where coaches come to die. I mean, the only guy that's been successful coming out of Cincinnati as an assistant was Mike Zimmer. And he still hadn't won he's won 1 playoff game. So when you look at it doesn't matter what they do. Their scouting system is flawed. I think they draft off of what Mel Kiper's big board says. And that's just the way it is. So if you're a Bengals fan, you're doomed for this for the next 30, 50, 200 years. This team's never going to win anything because they don't have any interest in it. All right, let's go ahead and I was going to say we could talk about some NFL teams, but now I'm going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers lost to the Tennessee Titans 27-23. Jameis Winston, 21 for 43, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But here you go. We can pat ourselves on the back again, Anthony. Ryan Tannehill, 21 for 33, 193 yards, 3 touchdowns. Since Tannehill's been the quarterback, the Titans have been 2-0.
Yeah, and, we both said in the preseason Tannehill should have been the week 1 starter. But now it seems like he's lighting a spark that team desperately needed. Their wide receivers are actually being productive players. Jonnu Smith, who isn't even their starting tight end, had a big day yesterday. Any concern with Derrick Henry?
Well, 16
because this is a team that wants to run the football, and he's not having the most effective season. I know he is scoring a touchdown.
But how about this? He's not having the most effective season, but their offensive line is not playing at the level it's played the last couple of years either. I mean, the two kind of go hand in hand, I would think.
Do they need to mix it up and get Dion Lewis more involved as a change of pace option, because he is a different back?
Yeah, but this is a team that wants to run between the tackles, and this is also a team that is having a hard time blocking off tackle.
Well, so, that's why maybe you need a little bit more speed, and that is why I believe the Texans were in the Kenyon Drake conversation going into the weekend. So they are shopping for a back.
And I think that with the Titans, this is a 500 team. They have 500 talent, and they're going to finish within a game, one way or the other, of 8-8. And I don't think there's a lot of hope here. They won 2 close games against 2 teams that aren't very good. In both of those games, I think they won at home. So I wouldn't read too much into this. I think if they'd have started the season with Tannehill, though, they'd be over 500.
Who is the standout team in the AFC South?
There is none. That's what I'm saying. 8-8. I'm not saying they can't make the playoffs at 8-8 or 9-7. I'm just saying that's the cap on them, and that's the cap on most of these teams.
Because Houston lost J.J. Watt again.
But they've still got Deshaun Watson, so
and there's
they'll
no
win 9
more,
or 10.
Clowney.
Yeah.
So their defense, they're almost going to be like the Kansas City Chiefs, to where Deshaun Watson must put points on the board.
Well, I think that they're more. I think they're more like the Houston or like the Seattle Seahawks.
Why?
I don't know, because I said that. You get DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, they've got some offensive weapons. The defense isn't very good, and this is only going as far as the quarterback can take them. But the thing about Wilson and Watson is they can take you to the playoffs.
Who, who is your AFC South pick if you had to do it right now?
I would go with the Texans.
I would go Jacksonville.
I wouldn't. No.
Jacksonville was my preseason pick, and I'm sticking with it.
Well,
we have some breaking news.
What?
The Jets traded away defensive lineman Leonard Williams to the New York Giants. So, the Jets couldn't stop the run. Now they're really not going to be able to stop the run. And they got 3 in this year's draft and a 5 in 2021.
Not bad. Giants will win there, though, because anything the Jets do is wrong. All right.
The trade deadline is tomorrow, correct?
I believe it is. At the 30th?
I'm asking you. I know
it's the 30th.
Next day or two.
It's the 30th or the 31st. I know it's either Wednesday or Thursday.
Usually significant NFL league. It's usually Tuesday at 4 p.m. That's usually, so I'm going to assume Tuesday, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. It's sometime this week. I'm a Bengals fan. I didn't even know there was trades
allowed.
A lot of action. I think we've already seen more action this year than we ever have in the past, haven't we?
Last year we had quite a few, like all the wide receiver movement with Amari Cooper and Demaryius Thomas and Golden Tate. Those were the 3 big ones. Then we had Garoppolo the year before that. So I think this year should surpass that, but it hasn't happened yet.
All right, next up, the Philadelphia Eagles, the best team in the NFC East, got back on track with a 31-13 win over the Buffalo Bills. Jordan Howard ran for 96 yards, 23 carries. Miles Sanders, 3 carries for 74 yards. I mean, the Eagles look like they're the best team in the East again, Anthony.
Really?
What? The Cowboys didn't even win this weekend.
Okay. So you're going to say the Eagles look like they're the best team
because they're the best team. They've got the best coach. They got a better quarterback.
Because their great defense shut down that powerful Bills offense.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. The Eagles were coming off 2 horrible losses where they looked like crap. They got dominated in 2 games. Alshon Jeffrey, 4 catches, 64 yards. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz combined for 5 or 6 catches there. I mean, you're the one that said you thought the Bills were for real and could make the playoffs. So the Eagles go to Buffalo and beat a 5-1 playoff team, but yet you're still not going to give them any credit.
What credit? I'll give them credit. They beat the Buffalo Bills. They beat the second best defense in the league.
Yeah.
That's great. Good for them.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz played well.
The week before that, they couldn't get out of their own way against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and the week before that, the Dallas Cowboys got beaten by the New York Jets, who since beating the Dallas Cowboys have looked absolutely atrocious.
Right, because the Cowboys went in there banged up.
Oh, okay.
They were missing both tackles.
Were the Eagles banged up playing Dallas? Were the Eagles banged up playing Buffalo?
They didn't play Buffalo yet, but they will.
No, I said were the Eagles banged up when they played Buffalo?
What did you say? When do they play Buffalo?
No, I said were the Eagles banged up when they played Buffalo?
Yes.
Okay, and they won 31-13, and they have the better coach. And the Eagles. I said it at the start of the year. The Eagles were winning the NFC East.
500 since the Super Bowl. The better coach who has not beaten my Cowboys since the Super Bowl.
Wait.
The better coach who is going to
he's
live
not
on,
beating the
he's
Cowboys since the Cowboys
off that Super Bowl win.
Oh, well, that's kind of the way it works, isn't it? What's Jason Garrett made his career off of? Failing to make the playoffs or failing to win in the playoffs?
He's an elite clapper.
Yeah. And Jason Garrett in his career, which is 3 or 4 times
he
longer
has more
as a
Super
head
Bowls
coach.
than Carson Wentz.
Who does?
Jason Garrett.
He does?
He has Troy Aikman's backup.
That was only for 1 season, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure it was Troy's backup for at least 2 of them. Maybe 3.
Bernie Kosar was the backup in 93.
They also had Steve Berlin at one point, but I think
Steve Berline in 92. You had Bernie Kosar in 93, and then Jason Garrett. But Jason Garrett, his role as the backup, I don't think he won 9 or 10 games the way Carson Wentz did. Okay, I'll assume he didn't then, since you.
No, he didn't. He didn't because
he played the game on Thanksgiving. That's pretty much the extent of his professional football career.
I just want to know how long he played for the Cowboys now.
Who, Jason Garrett?
Yes.
A couple weeks. Long enough for him to become Jerry's son so they could daddy ball him into being the head coach. Let's look at Jason Garrett right now. We'll see the extent of his career. He threw 294 passes in the NFL. Let's see. Dallas Cowboys, 1993 through 1999. So he was he was the third string quarterback in 93.
You're asking me what he's making his career off of, and I said he won a couple Super Bowls.
Yeah. He did. He won a couple Super Bowls all by himself. He had a lot to do with that. He also was the starting quarterback for the San Antonio Riders of the World League of American Football. And he played for the Ottawa Rough Riders in the CFL. See, the only problem was the Rough Riders, he wasn't even good enough to stick. So he got cut by the Ottawa Rough Riders, and then the Cowboys picked him up. Now, in 1992, get this, with the support of his father, who was a part of the Dallas Cowboys scouting department, Garrett was signed as a free agent. He was then released by his father on August 31st and later signed to the team's practice squad. So he's in the NFL because of his daddy. So this is like that usually goes, correct? His daddy got him in the league, and now he gets to be a head coach.
Good.
That's good. Yeah, and now you've got a coach that makes it capable or possible so your team can never, ever win a Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's true.
Because you don't play the game on the field or anything.
No, you win the game with coaching. There's been very few poor coaches to win Super Bowls.
Barry Switzer.
Barry Switzer was not a poor football coach.
At that point in his life, come on.
I don't think Barry Switzer was coaching that team, to tell you the truth. I think that was Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin.
Right.
All right. But Barry Switzer was a better coach.
Barry Switzer is credited with that win.
I hate to tell you this, though. That was also a team that had already won 2 Super Bowls. If Barry Switzer would have been a head coach in 1991 or 92, they would have never won a Super Bowl. He came into a team that was made and ready to go. They'd already won Super Bowls. Barry Switzer's a lot better coach than Jason Garrett. Barry Switzer's got a lot of rings that he had something to do with, even though it was on the college level. Next up, the Denver Broncos choked away a 15-13 game in Indianapolis, and I think this is completely on Vic Fangio, who did not play to win the game. He played to not lose the game.
Yeah, and Joe Flacco wasn't shy about telling us all that either.
What did he have to say? I heard about that a little bit. But...
basically played the role of a bus driver and completely buried the play calling. Joe Flacco, this is his exact quote. He said, come on, I just look at it like we're at a 2-6 football team and we're afraid to go for it in a 2-minute drill. Like who cares if you give the ball back to the guys with 1:40 left? They obviously got the field goal anyway. Once again, we're a 2-6 football team, and it just feels like we're kind of afraid to lose. It's 3rd and 5 at the end of the game. Who cares if they have a timeout there at the end or not? Getting it in field goal range isn't that tough. You're just putting your defense in these bad situations, and I just feel like, what do we have to lose? Why can't we be aggressive in some of these situations? That's kind of how I feel a lot about the game today.
Yeah, that's how I felt watching all their games this year. I mean, they're playing not to lose the game. And Joe Flacco did not play poorly, but you got Joe Flacco. I mean, the guy has a history of being able to make plays in which you say signature games. 20 for 32, 174 yards, no touchdowns. The Colts' offense was pathetic the whole game. They only scored, I think, 1 touchdown?
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett, 202 yards passing. And if we look at it, the Colts were beaten by the Raiders a few weeks ago. That's why I think people are really overrating what the Colts have done so far this year and what they could do.
I mean, I don't think the Denver defense is terrible.
No, I think the Denver defense is really good. But you're playing a 2-5 team at home when you're supposed to be a playoff, possible Super Bowl contender, and you put up a performance like that. That game was given to them.
Who's calling them a Super Bowl contender?
I live in Indiana. There's a lot of people to call them that.
I like Jacoby Brissett a lot. I think that I called them a playoff team. Super Bowl contender is a little bit of a stretch.
Well, I have heard people. Well, this is the thing, though. Outside of New England, I don't know that there are Super Bowl contenders in the AFC. So I think almost any team you bring up is a stretch. Next up, Drew Brees is back, and the Saints, as I told you on Friday, destroyed the Cardinals 31-9. Kyler Murray didn't play poorly, 19 for 33, 220 yards, no turnovers, but no touchdowns either. Drew Brees, on the other hand, is letting people know that he's still better than Teddy Bridgewater. 34 for 43, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. But the big story here, and I know this is a guy you like, everybody's freaking about Alvin Kamara not being out, but Latavius Murray, 21 carries, 102 yards. Latavius Murray is the real deal here.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me, and I don't know if it was this show or my show, I was talking about Latavius Murray last week, but he's so underrated. I never understood why the Raiders let him go. Even last year behind Dalvin Cook, and when Dalvin Cook went down, Latavius Murray was balling out like this 2 weeks in a row, 150 total yards, a couple of touchdowns. And this is a player who I believe has earned himself a little bit of an extended role. Maybe he does begin now to get Mark Ingram type of touches in this offense because he certainly deserves it. And Drew Brees, in both of his starts, the second one against the Rams, he left the game in the first quarter. But in the two games in week 1 and yesterday, in which he played the whole game, threw for 370-yard floor and 2 or 3 touchdowns in each one.
Yeah, and I think the Saints right now have to make a case for being, if not the best team in the NFC, one of the 2 or 3 best.
Yeah, the NFC is loaded. This is not like the AFC where it's, the Patriots and everybody else, or maybe if you want to put the Ravens up there. I know I like to do that. You don't like Lamar Jackson.
They suck. We'll see how good Lamar is this weekend.
But if you want to talk about Super Bowl contenders in the NFC, I mean, really, in the West alone, you can make a case for 2 or 3 teams. Just in the West. And that's not including Dallas.
I don't think you can make – no, you can make a case
Green
for one
Bay.
Team in the West. You can't make
You
a case for Seattle or the Rams.
And
no,
the Rams.
You can't.
Yes,
you can't.
Jalen Ramsey,
Jeez.
Getting Jalen Ramsey changes
shit.
that team like they traded for Ezekiel Elliott.
It doesn't change anything unless Jalen Ramsey can throw the ball or run the ball. That offense has issues.
The offense has issues, and the defense is now good enough to bail them out, where in the beginning of the year, they couldn't.
I don't think the defense is good enough to bail them out. I don't think the defense is that good.
Jalen Ramsey makes it that good.
He doesn't. He's overrated.
Shoot.
I mean, come on. All he does is cause problems where he's at. He could cover somebody. I did like the fact that he apologized to the Rams fans yesterday because he played bored because the Bengals didn't run any routes that challenged him. That was my favorite quote of the day. All right, let's go to a team.
What did he say?
He said that he apologized to fans because he got bored during the game because the Bengals didn't run any routes that challenged him.
That's what another reason why I like his sound bites.
You're kind of muffled when you talk.
I said I like his sound bites. Am I still muffled?
You were there. You were good there. All right, let's talk about an NFC West team that is a Super Bowl contender. The San Francisco 49ers put a beat down on the previously red-hot Carolina Panthers, 51-13. Jimmy Garoppolo, 18 for 22, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Tevin Coleman, 105 yards. Mostert, 60 yards. Breida, 35 yards. I mean, Deebo Samuel run the ball twice for 29 yards. This is a team that's getting 200 yards a game from Garoppolo and another 250 yards a game from the running game. And that defense, I mean, Nick Bosa, to me, they could give him the Defensive Rookie of the Year right now, and it wouldn't be too early.
No, this 49ers team is for real. I called them a few weeks ago the most complete team in the NFL. I still feel that way.
Hey, come on. Don't give me any credit. I called it in June.
No, but I called 2 weeks ago. I said they were the most complete team.
Yeah, they have.
And I think you can make a compelling case to put them over the Patriots right now.
I did in my last power rankings, and I will again this week. Yeah, I think they are.
Matt Breida goes down for a little bit yesterday, and Raheem Mostert steps up, and Tevin Coleman is playing like one of the best backs in football, and the 49ers are still missing offense. Their starting tackles. They bring in
How about this, though, Anthony?
How about Emmanuel Sanders catching a touchdown, making an impact in the first quarter that he's with the team on a short week?
But how about this? Would you bet on him to beat the Patriots?
Yes.
I wouldn't. Because
you want to know why?
Why?
Who was the offensive coordinator in the Super Bowl where the Falcons put up all those points on
where
that
the Falcons blew the game because they were afraid to try to win it. Yeah.
But Kyle Shanahan knows how to score on Belichick, and that is something that Sean McVay couldn't do.
Wait a second, though, because Kyle Shanahan blew that game. It was his fault they lost that game.
Well, Dan Quinn didn't have the power to say, no, we're going to run it.
Yes, he did, but that's not the point. The point is Kyle Shanahan had the power to make the right call from the get-go, and I was getting ready to blame him and Dan Quinn.
Regardless, he knows how to put up points, And this defense is good enough to contain the Patriots.
But he was putting up points with Julio Jones and Matt Ryan.
Okay.
And the other thing is this: Bill Belichick knows all about Jimmy Garoppolo. And my question is here:
you don't know Tevin Coleman.
Hold on. If Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy that has to make those throws, and I'm not just talking about against them. I mean, what if he's playing Green Bay, who has a solid defense, and they have Aaron Rodgers making plays? Tom Brady's going to make plays. So what this is going to come down to is, even if they're the most complete team, Jimmy Garoppolo at some point against these other teams is going to have to make those plays. And I really like Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm not saying he can't make those plays. I'm just saying that is my one big question mark here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't discount that, because that's always the asterisk when I talk of the 49ers. And my co-host, Mike Hoff's a big 49ers fan. And he doesn't like when I say that, but it is true. Jimmy Garoppolo does have his games where he turns the ball over. And on the other side, while I believe their offense can overcome injuries, if their defense suffers injuries, I think that's going to be an issue. When they're healthy, they're a top 1 to 3 unit. But if they get it, if one of their pass rushers goes down, we saw this last year. Quan Alexander, who has had an injury problem in his whole career in Tampa, if Bosa suffers an injury, what happens to that defense?
Yeah, I think with Bosa they can overcome. You still got other pass rushers. I think Quan Alexander is the one guy there that may be irreplaceable.
Yeah. No, definitely.
All right, Kyle Allen, 3 interceptions. Does this mean Cam Newton's going to get another shot? Because I don't think it should. I think that they just got overrun by a superior team.
Yeah, I think they owe it to Kyle Allen, and they owe it to themselves. I don't believe Cam is going to be healthy all year. He's not going to be himself this season. And I think they can get out of his contract really without any cap ramifications. So why not see what you have in Kyle Allen? Because you could probably get a first-round pick for Cam this offseason.
All right, next up. Well, you're probably going to have to play Cam a little bit to get that first-round pick, because people are going to want to make sure that shoulder and the legs and everything are good to go, too.
I think Cam has done enough in his career to where a desperate team will take a shot.
All right, next up, the Houston Texans, Oakland Raiders. Texans win the game 27-24. Deshaun Watson, 27 for 39, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns. Carlos Hyde ran the ball 19 times for 83 yards. The Raiders blew a golden opportunity here, but the Texans, and this is why I kind of compare them to Seattle, is, every game is close, and usually because they've got the quarterback they've got, they pull it out in the end.
You broke up there. What game are we on?
Houston and Oakland. And my take there is that this is why I compare them to Seattle. Houston hardly ever blows anybody out. In the end, they win close games because of the guy that's taking the snaps.
Yeah, but my question is, why was this game so close? Because in theory, Houston should have blown this game open at home, and they couldn't do it. I didn't think this game should have been this close.
Well, that's my point, though. I mean, that's why I compare them to the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks struggled to beat the Bengals at home.
I believe the Texans, their offense should be able to blow teams out.
I don't, because I still think the offensive line is not that great.
Upside. They have Kansas City Chiefs offensive upside. With their playmakers
no, they don't.
And speed at
they
receiver.
Don't. It's not even close. The Kansas City Chiefs have a lot better offensive line, though.
I would question that right now.
I would too, but in theory they do. The Oakland Raiders are a team that I think let a huge opportunity slip away, because this is the difference between being 4-3 and 3-4. And Derek Carr, 18 for 30, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 15 carries for 66 yards. And I understand what you're saying about the blowout, because I don't think the Raiders are very good on defense, even though the front four has played well this year. But, I mean, the Oakland Raiders, I think John Gruden, with the talent level he has here, has actually done a really good job with this team.
No, he really has, and so is Derek Carr. And I think the Raiders will be in a good position going to next season. because they did show aggressiveness this past offseason and free agency and trading for Antonio Brown, even though that didn't work out, and acquiring guys like Darren Waller and Tyrell Williams and drafting Abram, who's going to be a really good safety. He's just, he got hurt earlier, a couple games into his career. I think the Raiders will be aggressive and make this team competitive going into Las Vegas, which was probably their plan the whole time.
Yeah, and the big screamer here with the Texans is J.J. Watt's done for the season. How does that affect them? Can they overcome that defensively?
I don't know, because I said this earlier. There was no Jadeveon Clowney. They shipped him out. Now you lose J.J. Watt. You're left with Whitney Merciless almost on an island, because this guy last year, when you have J.J. Watt and Clowney, what Merciless is, he's free, and now I think he's going to be keyed on a little bit more by the offensive line and game planned against. So I think the Houston defense is really in a tough spot.
All right. A defense is not in a tough spot for the New England Patriots. They did give up 13 points this week, though, which I think is about the most they've given up this season. They won 27-13 over the Cleveland Browns. Tom Brady, 20 for 36, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sonny Michel ran for 74. The Cleveland Browns, on the other hand, Baker Mayfield, 20 for 31, 194, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The stat that stands out to me here is this, though. Did we see maybe a little chink in the armor of the Patriots with being able to stop the run? Nick Chubb, 20 carries for 131 yards.
Yeah, I think you are able to run on the Patriots a little bit, but I hate going to this, but who the hell have they beaten this year to where – who was their best competition? It was talent-wise, their best competition has been the Cleveland Browns.
Probably.
I know they beat Buffalo, but they scored 1 touchdown, and the second touchdown was a defense special team score. But Buffalo doesn't really have an offense. The Jets, Le'Veon Bell isn't the same guy. James Conner was factored out of the game in week 1 because the Patriots blew that game open. You played Miami, who, Mark Walton, very low talent level. I think the Patriots are going to be tested on the ground next week, going to Baltimore, where you have to worry about Lamar Jackson running it. You have to worry about Mark Ingram running it. So next week is going to be a big test for the New England Patriots and that defense.
Yeah, because they really have played nobody. Let's see, Mohamed Sanu, not a huge factor, a couple receptions. The Cleveland Browns, I mean, they're sitting at 2-5 right now. Are they out of this? Because the schedule gets a lot easier the second half of the season. Jarvis Landry went down with an injury yesterday also.
It's hard with their schedule to count them out, but I can't buy into Cleveland right now.
Yeah. The other thing with New England is I think they're going to have a hard time winning the Super Bowl if Marshall Newhouse is going to continue to be their left tackle.
The Patriots are trying to get a lineman.
Yeah, they've got to get one. They need a tackle, and they're the ones, I don't know, hell, they might throw way too much at the Redskins. How about this? They also passed up on Nick Chubb. So there's a mistake Belichick made, I think.
What, and went with Sony instead?
Yeah.
Yeah, but, they did make a mistake there. Because I don't want to say that Chubb is above and beyond better than Sony, but he's just outperforming him, him right now.
Yeah, I think he is above and beyond him. But not that Michel's terrible, but I think Nick Chubb looks like he may be a star in this league for a while. Next up, the Green Bay Packers, 31-24 over the Kansas City Chiefs. Aaron Rodgers, 23 for 33, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns. Is it safe to put him in the MVP race now? Because I think it probably is.
I mean, I've been on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon all year, telling you to calm down, Aaron.
I never had to not calm down. He wasn't playing at an MVP race.
But he was winning games. And Aaron Rodgers now with the defense and these running backs, they're wide receivers. I don't even know if they caught a pass. It was all Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. In the past 3 games, I think these running backs have combined for 4 or 5 touchdowns receiving.
Jamal Williams caught a touchdown pass. That's the only pass that I can remember a running back catching.
When?
In the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the past 3 weeks, they have combined for like 4 or 5, the two running backs, catching.
Yeah.
The Packers, I know they have one loss. I think you can make a case to put them on top of power rankings right now, too.
I don't. They got a loss. And the 49ers, I think, have been pretty dominant most of the year.
Yeah, but I mean, who has the quarterback edge?
Yeah, but who has the team edge? That's what I mean when it comes down to playoff time. Between the 49ers and Packers,
The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys, if they would even make the playoffs. The Kansas City Chiefs, Matt Moore played well, 24 for 36, 267 yards, 2 touchdowns. LaShawn McCoy, 9 for 40. I mean, I think you take away from this, Andy Reid did a good job of trying to win the game by mixing things up. And with Hill, Kelsey, Hardeman, Watkins, there's enough talent there to stay in the game against anybody. But now the Chiefs are 5-3, and they got a tough one coming up next week against Minnesota.
And they're losing, their 3 losses, I believe, are all at home. The glaring statistic, you brought up LaShawn McCoy. I don't know what the other backs got, but this was a 3-point game at one time. How come LaShawn McCoy finishes with 9 carries? And this is a Packers defense where all season you can run on them.
Yeah, I know, but it's Andy Reid's MO, and it's why they're not really a threat to the Patriots ever for me.
But that's going to be, Patrick Mahomes can't do it all by himself. The trade deadline's here. I believe the Chiefs must make a move. I don't know what they have to do. I don't know what they're going to bring in, but you have LaShawn McCoy, Damian Williams underperforming, Darryl. They should have been on the Kenyon Drake sweepstakes.
Well, how about this, though? If you're not going to run the ball and you have no intention to, why are you going to worry about trading for one?
Maybe they don't feel like they have a back that can handle it.
Andy Reid's had backs before that he didn't run
LaShawn
enough.
McCoy's 30 years old.
And Andy Reid's had backs before and didn't run enough. This is Andy Reid's MO throughout his whole career, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know. I like to think that Brian Westbrook was heavily involved in those Eagles offenses.
Yeah, but that was a lot of catching the ball out of the backfield.
Deuce Staley.
Yeah, a lot of Yeah, but if you go back and look at the stats in the playoff games, that was the problem. Now, you know what we got to do now? We got to talk about Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah, there is a game tonight.
Yeah. The Miami Dolphins will travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Is there anything else we need to say about this? It's a huge game for Pittsburgh, though. They win this game, they're ahead of Cleveland, and, with Baltimore playing New England next week, Pittsburgh could all of a sudden find themselves right in the middle of this.
I agree. I never counted Pittsburgh out since they've acquired Minkah Fitzpatrick, because I've always said that was the move to counteract Big Ben. As you make your defense better, you bring an impact player. He's not as good as Jalen Ramsey, but he's in the conversation as a top 10 cornerback, and he can also play safety. He made that secondary better, which opens up the pass rush. I think the Steelers' defense, if they continue to play well and that rookie who is a Devin Bush continues to flourish, that defense is good enough and Mason Rudolph is good enough not to lose a game where this team will be in at least a wild card or division conversation in Week 16.
Is Ryan Fitzpatrick the starter tonight, right?
Yes.
So you always got a chance. I think this game will be competitive. I think the Dolphins have been more competitive the last few weeks, but I think Pittsburgh puts them away late. I think this game ends up like 27-13.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers cover.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be borderline. I got it as a push, then, don't I?
I think they win by 10.
All right. Well, hopefully it'll just be competitive. I can hope that for it. Because Miami, let's face it, Miami versus Cincinnati sets up as maybe the game of the year here when you get to week 15 or 16.
Oh, I'm thrilled for that.
Hey, as a Bengals fan, it would probably make the game more interesting. Because nobody's going to care if they're both 1-13 when they play each other.
What if they're both winless and they tie?
That would be even better.
Especially that would be such a Bengals thing to happen.
A 2-2 tie. But, hey, we got a few matchups that could happen where we have undefeated teams playing that late in the season, too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And
But
I would like to bring up the fact that the Cowboys are not one of those teams.
No, but they're going to be playing the Patriots in 3 weeks, and the Patriots are going to walk away with their first or second loss of the year.
Okay.
Because that defense hasn't played anybody yet, and they don't know what Ezekiel Elliott is.
Yeah. Well, Ezekiel Elliott hasn't played a defense like that yet either.
Zeke's going to start, that Eagles front seven, he put up $150 on that.
Oh, God. Come on. The Eagles front seven is nowhere near New England's defense.
This is their bye week, and he's still running.
Mm-hmm.
He's still going.
I look at his stats. He's gained no yards in his bye week. And you don't really believe the Cowboys are going to New England and win?
Yes, I do.
We'll see. You don't. You can't believe that. Come on.
We'll see.
You really can't believe that.
I'm counting. I'm circling the game on my calendar. I have little X's on my wall.
Okay. Anything
counting
else?
Down those days.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we're good. We got it all out.
Okay. Man, the Cowboys may not even make the playoffs the way this is going. They're going to lose the East.
We got the Giants coming up.
I know, in New York, and the Giants are probably going to beat them because I've got X's and little hearts and arrows through the hearts waiting on that game. Because you've got an extra week to prepare, which means Jason Garrett has an extra week to suck.
I heard Daniel Jones is already asking Eli if he wants one more start.
I don't think he would ask for that because Daniel Jones is probably going to throw for about 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in this win. And then the Giants are back in it. And I'm telling you, the Cowboys-Giants, usually no matter how bad they are, once a year the Giants will jump up and smack the Cowboys.
Well, it's not going to be on Sunday.
We'll see. But you know what? The Giants have a better chance of beating Dallas at home than Dallas does of going to New England and winning.
We'll see.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We will be back tomorrow at noon with the NFL show. Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at the FF Face Off, and we can be found on all of the top social media and podcast platforms.
All right, guys, you can find me at Grueling Truth. Make sure you check out all of our shows on The Grueling Truth, which can be heard on over 300 different outlets right now, including YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.